The Matrix is a system, Neo. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
Today's video, I'd like to do something that can serve as an aid for those of us having a difficult time fully communicating to others what it is we're experiencing. So today I'm going to play nice with the denier crowd, referring to them diplomatically as skeptics or naysayers, in an attempt to illustrate to them what it's like to be profoundly impacted by this phenomenon, what it's like to be Mandela affected. It needs to be understood those of us deeply affected aren't suddenly deciding to become irrational, assigning supernatural conspiracy theories to common misperceptions. We've all at one time or another misheard song lyrics, misquoted a TV or movie line, casually glanced and misread something. We recognize when these are factors. The ME is something entirely different, something new. The realization of impossible changes to items we perceive clearly is humanly possible. A false notion perpetuated by the mainstream is that the ME is all about misremembering childhood relics from the distant past. As great as those are, it actually has more to do with noticing changes to contemporary items we've always had continual access to. I think witnessing a change to something tangible, long known, and visibly observed on a regular basis is most impactful. So I'm going to use some common, very well-known brands as visual aids to create a few relatable, hypothetical what-if scenarios that hopefully do an adequate job putting you skeptics out there in the shoes of us heavily affected by the ME, and demonstrate why the false memory narrative to explain it away simply doesn't apply. So let's begin. Sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and imagine you've never heard of the strange new sensation called the Mandela Effect. Block it out completely. The world is perfectly normal, just as you skeptics and naysayers always claim it to be. Now let's focus on those well-known brands. Whether we use them or not, we're all familiar with them. They've been around our entire lives. We've seen the commercials, walked past their products on store shelves. Nike, Coca-Cola, and for those who aren't Coke drinkers, I've thrown in Pepsi. We should all be highly familiar with their spelling and basic design elements. Next, imagine while clothes shopping one day, you're surprised to notice Nike has eliminated their long-used, iconic curved swoosh for something slightly more aggressive and angular. You think to yourself, they must have wanted to modernize the look of the design. I like the original version better. Not a big deal though. Companies update their logos all the time. Flash forward to a different day, this time at the grocery store. You notice Coca-Cola is spelled like this with a K. For Pepsi drinkers, like this with a C. You say to yourself, well, those are goofy new spellings. Wonder why they did that. Must be some marketing ploy. Again, just more passing thoughts, not a big deal. May even turn out you already have some of these products at home with the updated designs that you'd have to assume you probably just didn't notice before. Whoop-de-doo, who cares? It has no impact on your busy daily life. The swoosh is gone, the spellings have changed. Companies revamp and rebrand all the time. No investigation required. Certainly, the idea that reality itself has changed would never cross your mind. Stop and ask yourself at this point, do you think you'd ever forget Nike always originally had a curved swoosh? That you'd ever forget the original spellings of Coca-Cola and Pepsi? Unless suffering severe brain injury or going senile, I'd like to think most people wouldn't. Now comes the wild part. A few years have since passed. It's still never been anything more than an occasional afterthought, those silly design changes maintained. You're living your regular productive life, until one day stumbling upon some articles and videos bringing attention to the fringe topic of reality shifts. With claims Nike never had a curved swoosh, Coca-Cola's never been COCA, Pepsi's always had this absurd spelling with a C. You confidently say to yourself, how stupid. Those were corporate marketing decisions. The slightest bit of basic research could confirm that. Eager to debunk such nonsense, you start searching away, but much to your surprise, can't seem to find the original versions. They're nowhere to be found. You dig deeper, leaving no stone unturned, checking old print ads, old commercials, going all the way back to the company's beginnings, only to discover those stupid claims check out. History now shows these brands never existed in the way you've always known, even complete with contrived backstories to fully reinforce it. The impossible has happened. What was once not a big deal is now an extremely big deal. Something has somehow changed reality. Even though it's in small, minor ways, the implications are startling. Completely floored by such a discovery, first thing you do is notify friends and family. Because boy, won't they be just as amazed by all this. At the first possible interaction, you get right into it, telling them, hey, wow, you won't believe this, but if you look into the entire history of Nike, there's never been a curved swoosh. Their reaction? Curved swoosh? There is never any curved swoosh. It's always just been a check mark. You're probably mixing up with Asics or Reebok. They have swooshes in their logos. Confounded by their response, but still unshaken, you move on to the next one. What about Coke? Spell the full name, Coca-Cola. They briefly think about it and collectively spell out an agreement. C-O-C-A-C-O-L-A. Success! Your memories match. You tell them, guess what? It's never been spelled that way, ever, in the entire history of the company. Doubtful of your claim, they look into it themselves, confirming you're correct, only to casually shrug it off with an, oh well, I guess we just misremembered. We probably always misread it because of the cursive style font. Check out Pepsi then. Have you always seen it spelled like this with a C? They pause with a blank stare, taking a moment to process. They know full well it wasn't always like that. But instead of directly answering your question if that's the way they've always seen it, reply with a, well, it is called Pepsi, so it does make sense for it to have a C. How can this be? How on earth are these reactions you're getting, with what should be the simplest things ever to recall? It's like you're in the Twilight Zone. Things keep getting stranger. Upon further investigation, you discover confirmation of your memories in newspaper articles, artwork, cartoon parodies, all preserving a residue of the reality you once knew. Excitingly, you present this surefire evidence to your oblivious friends and family, only to get dismissed all over again, with them explaining it away as confirmation bias, artist taking creative license, a bunch of typos, mere proof that they're common misconceptions, and probably the source of your conflation and false memory to begin with. Infuriating, I know. Then you get to hear all the additional insults and talking points, spoken down to you like you're a child who hasn't yet considered every other possibility before arriving at reality shifts. Almost always to do with bringing up examples of faulty memory, faulty perceptions, ridiculously concluding that the logical, rational way to process all this is to not trust your own mind and your own senses. Occam's razor. You'll wish you had a nickel for every time you hear that. People think they're so brilliant citing Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is something new with how this world operates is now being observed, and most are failing to recognize it. On the incredibly rare occasion you get a live one who has a clue something strange is occurring, they'll expect you to have all the answers, as if you're the one doing it. All you know is it's happening. No exaggeration, these scenarios are exactly what it's like when presenting this effect to others, and it can be maddening. Not only does this effect impact the way one views time and physical reality, it impacts the way one views people, as they go on to robotically accept each and every change presented to them, even when it conflicts with their own memories, without the slightest bit of intrigue to investigate further. Then hastily and angrily shut down all further discussion on the matter, almost as if they're programmed to do so, which ultimately ends up creating a lonely environment of isolation because you have no one around to talk and relate with. So I completely sympathize with what you must be going through about now. Someone telling you Nike's never had a swoosh and you're confusing it with Asics or Reebok is just as ridiculous as when someone tells me Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia and I'm confusing it with Thanksgiving. Someone saying to you Coca-Cola's always been spelled with a K is exactly what it's like when someone tells me Chick-fil-A must have always had a K. I'd actually have to expand proportions on the coca-K to make it totally exact, but let's keep things family friendly. In either of these cases, based on our life experience, we both have no choice but to aggressively reject all notions we're just remembering them wrong. That would be deluding ourselves. We've seen them too clearly too many times. In spite of limitations with human perception and memory, there are things we can know with accurate certainty, and these are non-negotiable, even if reality itself has somehow erased or retroactively changed them. Hopefully these examples help put into perspective what it is us, the Mandela Effect'd, are going through. I have a feeling, though, some of you skeptics are scoffing about now, saying, "Oh, well, this is Nike, Coke, and Pepsi that's being talked about here. Some of the biggest, most recognizable brands ever. Surely if those changed, we'd take notice." When something like McDonald's turns into McRonald's and loses its golden arches, let me know. If Starbucks retroactively changes into Starbuck, then I'll believe you. If you're getting hung up on the popularity level of these products, then you're missing the point. Changes have occurred to some of them, by the way, while the majority of the general population hasn't noticed. Those that have are almost certainly out there sipping away, attributing it to standard company revisions like I would have in the past. And does it really take something like a Starbucks, Coke, or McDonald's? There aren't other brands you're fully familiar with? Enough items have changed in this category alone that once alerted to the fact that previous versions never existed should make anyone take pause. This group doesn't even represent them all. Not each and every one resonates with me, just as not each and every one will resonate with you. We all zero in on different things and take note of certain details at different times. But there's so many changes to these common, everyday, accessible items where there should be at least a handful of gold star 100%ers noticeable to everyone by now. Maybe you've already noticed some of these changes, assuming they were standard company revisions. Take the time to look into it. I assure you they're not. If you've genuinely never paid close enough attention to these type of things, I strongly encourage you to start. Consciousness is key. Do what it takes to become more aware of the details of your surroundings. Document them if you have to. I think eventually you'll find I'm not full of it. These changes are truly happening. Even when reality itself is playing a sleight of hand on us, there's nothing intelligent or pragmatic by just accepting it, ignoring it, and attributing it as a flaw within ourselves, our own senses and memories. We're equipped with these abilities for a reason. Speaking from 40 plus years of personal life experience, the times they've let me down are few and far between. And when they have, it's always been easy to understand why. I'm honest with myself and well aware of their strengths and limitations. For me to be suddenly misperceiving and misremembering this amount of things to this extent, to be imagining so many specific details that never existed, would be unprecedented. Compounded by the fact countless others all across the world are observing so many of these exact same items changing in the exact same ways, often with incredibly similar anchor experiences to boot. It's cowardly and foolish to cave to societal pressures that demand we chalk this all up to commonly shared psychological quirks. There comes a point where it's a sound reason to acknowledge something new with how this world functions is now being witnessed. That there exists powers of transformation never thought possible, showing us we live in a world full of what might as well be considered magic, where potentially anything is possible. And if anything is possible, even the biggest skeptical, naysaying denier will be able to know what myself and those in the Mandela Effect'd community know, that this is our revised reality. The veil is being lifted. All it takes is consciousness on your part to have a peek.